There's been a lot of soda mascots over the years, some of which we intend to eventually cover, such as the Coca-Cola Polar Bears. But perhaps the most famous and successful of the soda mascots was a little red guy by the name of Spot, who promoted 7-Up. But the weird thing is, he wasn't the one they started with.
There is truth in advertising, yes I swear. Got new Nikes on my feet and Vidal Sassoon in my hair. I can sure use a Budweiser fruit of the loom underwear. There is truth in advertising, I swear. Why would they lie to me when they love what they sell? Plus we all know that the liars have a special fire in hell. On the television, radio, and in the magazines, the advertising gods perpetuate the American dream. Advertising, let it be, let it be. Now I know that I don't need to buy everything they try to sell me, but so easily divided is a fool and his money. There is truth in advertising, let it be. Why would they lie to me when they love what they sell? Plus we all know that the liars got a special fire in hell. On the television, radio, and in the magazines, the advertising gods perpetuate American dream.
It's wild to think about, but some sodas have existed since the early 1900s. Dr. Pepper, for example, is the oldest major soft drink in America, first created in 1885. Likewise, 7-Up was invented in 1929. First titled Bib Label Lithiated Lemon Lime Soda, a tongue twister unto itself, it was later renamed 7-Up Lithiated Lemon Soda, before just becoming 7-Up. The weird thing, though, is how 7-Up didn't have a mascot until 1985. To be fair, most sodas didn't. In fact, advertising mascots, by and large, weren't particularly popular with foodstuffs until maybe the 1950s, I'd say. Sure, there's exceptions, but generally, that's when we seem to begin to see them crop up. And when 7-Up finally did get a mascot, well, it wasn't even really theirs. Okay, this next sentence is going to do psychic damage to you if you're one of those people who are very tapped into media, specifically children's cartoons. But 7-Up's first official mascot was a character by the name of Fido Dido. This character was created by two women in 1985, those women being, and frankly I can't believe this is real, Joanna Ferrone, the creator of childhood fever dream Angela Anaconda, and Sue Rose, the creator of beloved girl power cartoon Pepper Ann. And all of this just sounds ridiculous, I know. But looking at Dido, you can clearly see Rose's artistic influence, which makes sense given she's the one who drew him. Originally doodled on a napkin in a restaurant, Ferrone was the one who gave him his name the next day on her way to work. The two later stenciled Fido onto t-shirts, which became very popular in New York. An image of youth culture, of hope, and positivity, and, more than anything, coolness. Someone so suave, they go past suave and back to suave again. And perhaps that's why, in 1988, he was licensed to PepsiCo. Companies are always trying to chase that youth culture. So, to witness this character's rise in popularity, it just makes sense. That being said, even then, he didn't receive a lot of attention until the early 90s when he began to crop up on numerous products, particularly stationery, boxer shorts, and 7-Up ads. It's interesting to note, however, that since PepsiCo doesn't own the rights to 7-Up in the US, where it's instead a product of the Dr. Pepper Snapple Group, which sounds like the musical supergroup of sodas, he was instead used to promote Slice. Why PepsiCo doesn't own 7-Up in its goddamned country of origin is far too big a mystery for us to tackle right now, so we'll leave that up to you to read about. However, Fido's reign with 7-Up wouldn't last, as he was ultimately usurped by their true mascot, Cool Spot.
Hey, thanks, man. Stay cool.
7-Up, the cool spot.
Cool Spot, who personifies the red dot from the logo itself, premiered in 1987. However, like Fido, it wouldn't be until the 1990s that he truly came into his own. And I have a hunch on why that is. It's because nothing was allowed to be cool until the 90s. The 90s were the decade of cool and attitude. In the early 90s, the dot from the logo would come to life as Cool Spot in television commercials. Spot, much like his predecessor, was unable to speak, but he could make noise overall. He even had clones. Multiple Spots appeared at certain times. However, his non-verbalness and his boom in popularity was all he had in common with Fido, because Cool Spot actually lived up to his name, and he became pretty freaking cool. Let's start with the fact that he starred in three separate video games on the Sega Genesis, Nintendo Game Boy, and the NES. These were coined as adver games. Probably something much akin to how Burger King released a trio of video games in the mid-2000s for multiple platforms as well, featuring their own mascot of the time. Actually, from our research, we discovered 4 titles: Cool Spot, Spot Goes to Hollywood, Spot the Video Game, and Spot the Cool Adventure. For this instance, however, we're going to focus on the Cool Spot game, released in 1993. Now, keep in mind, he wasn't the only one doing advert games at the time. Both Chester Cheetah, the mascot for Cheetos, and of course the Noid for Pizza Hut, also had their own games going on. Really, in hindsight, Burger King was simply following a tried and true tradition. The game is a single-player platform game, fairly straightforward in its mechanics. And perhaps weirdly enough, it was good? And well received to boot. The Finnish video game magazine Pelit gave it a score of 82%, stating it was one of the most enjoyable platform games in a long time. The game was also ranked 88th on Complex's Best Super Nintendo Games of All Time list. In 1995, Total rated it 65th on its Top 100 SNES games, while in the same year, Megazone included it in their Top 50 games in history. In '96, GamesMaster listed the Mega Drive version 92nd in their Top 100 games of all time, and also praised the game's graphics, in which they concluded, and this is going to be a wild take, I assure you, quote, "One of the few non-Mario platformers worth anything more than a passing glance." Keep in mind, they're talking about a game that is blatant product placement, featuring an advertising mascot as its protagonist. The game sold 1 million copies, which was no small feat back then. The follow-up, however, didn't fare as well. Spot Goes to Hollywood received mixed reviews from critics, mostly depending on the platform. Bad graphics, specifically on the Genesis, a frustrating controls, and objects being hard to see due to gaps covering them were among the top criticisms. In this title, Spot has become trapped in a movie projector and has to jump from film to film, encountering many classic genres as he attempts to free his friends. The thing is, despite the successful venture into the gaming world, and his overall popularity in advertising spots, not to be cute, that was really all he had going for him. The Dot had limited longevity, and his popularity didn't endure even part-way as others did. That isn't to say he didn't have a bit of a moment, though. For God's sakes, they gave him his own telephone, which might be the first time we've seen that on this show. And he was treated to a number of other more common merch as well, such as water bottles, a plush with those sucker things for your car window, a posable rubber figure, magnets, enamel pins, pencils, key rings, shirts, wind-up toys, calendars, a plush basketball. Make that one make sense. A pog, because, well, you know, the 90s. Baseball hats, fucking fruit snacks, and, I shit you not, a goddamn baby pacifier. Cool Spot might have one of the widest ranges of merchandise anyone ever received, just in terms of variety alone. And of course, no mascot from this period of time would be complete without their Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade balloon. Ironically, perhaps, he was one of the few balloons in 1997 to survive the heavy winds and not receive any damage. The same of which cannot be said for his actual career. Because, as I said, longevity wasn't his strong suit. I mean, after all, how could it be? Comparatively to other mascots, and soda mascots in particular, are notoriously difficult to maintain relevancy with. He just didn't have that special something that kept him around. And, forgive me for saying so, but it's a little difficult for someone who has cool in his name to actually be cool if he can't speak. He can't have catchphrases, he can't be snarky. Where's the coolness factor there? Cool Spot was eventually phased out in 1997, 10 years after his initial arrival. But let's circle back around to Fido for a hot minute, shall we? Because after Spot's retirement, Fido reappeared in the 2000s on cans and advertising for 7-Up, but this time, worldwide. In 2018, he reappeared in the Vintage Series cans, and in 2022, he reappeared to star in a series of brand new commercials, as well as being used on PepsiCo's Turkish soft drink Fruko. Imagine being Fido. Imagine you're a really original, cool character created by two very creative women who go on to have great success of their own. And you're replaced by the fucking anthropomorphic version of a company's logo. And then, despite that character's success, hollow as it ultimately was, you get your job back, because in the end, despite him having cool in his name, you were always the cooler one to begin with. One final note. In the early 90s, in the city of Guayaquil, Ecuador, a large mural of Fido was painted on the side of a building. After being nearly erased by the passage of time, a news article was published in El Universo, which might be the best name for anything ever, in March 2019, which in turn led to the mural being repainted to refresh the image. Nobody's painting murals of Cool Spot, I'll tell you that much. Sorry, buddy. Game over.
Live loud, live fun, live once, live 7-Up. More than 7 days, you stay a week, and more than 7 wonders, and it ain't so sweet. Facebook, MySpace,